Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek, and welcome to day 21 of my 31 Days of Halloween reviews. Today I'm covering a direct-to-DVD animated film that I knew I was going to cover when I first started planning these 31 review vlogs, but I didn't think it was going to be a great film. I thought it was definitely worthy of covering. It was very much within the genre that I wanted to look at, and I thought it would be fun, just fun. And I was really surprised. So I'm talking about The Batman vs. Dracula, which was a direct-to-DVD movie that was made out of the Batman TV series, the cartoon, the animated series at the time. And the prevailing theory I heard from friends who had seen the movie or people who, are Batman fans or whatever, who had seen it was just that, yeah, it's fun, yeah, sure, it's what it is, I'm not expecting much from a DVD or a film that's directly released to DVD and, placed in Walmart, for kids basically or something like that. I was really surprised. I liked this movie so much more than I thought I would. It's really, I'm still kind of blown away by it. So I'll tell you why I have that reaction. And then, if you've seen it, I'd love to hear what you think, or if maybe hopefully I've intrigued you a little bit and you want to either go back and take a second look or seek it out for the first time. So the movie did come out of the series, which was the Batman, and the Batman animated series, it gets a bad rap. It is not anywhere near, of course, the praiseworthiness of the Bruce Timm animated series. It was the first animated series of Batman, just the solo Batman, to come along after the Bruce Timm series, I believe, and all of that universe. So it had heavy shoes to fill. And I really think it did a pretty admirable job to begin with. There was this weird tonal shift around season 2, I think. When the series begins, Dwayne Capizzi is if I'm pronouncing that right, he's the executive producer, writes a lot of the episodes, and the series is really about Batman as he starts out. Just really starting out, he's just gotten going, so you're not getting an origin story per se, but he's basically just had boots on the ground in Gotham, and there's no Commissioner Gordon or anything like that. The police are still after the Batman, and he is called the Batman because he's this force of urban myth kind of in the city. So that was a great place to start. That's some place that the Bruce Timm series had begun well after, of course, because in the first season of Batman the Animated Series, he's already got Robin and all of that going on. So it was a good place to start. And they really, the feel of the series, which also carries over the feel of the movie, is a great gothic feel to the universe, a good scene design and animation and stuff like that. But the setting, it did a great job of evoking a gothic environment without copying the Bruce Timm. So the Bruce Timm universe and that look of that series is very film noir. They had painted all of the cells black before they would paint the art onto it, so they could just really deal heavily in shadows. The color in the Batman series is a little more garish. You have a lot of purple tones, and it really is supposed to evoke this sort of uncanny, otherworldly-ish gothic world, almost like you're reading a horror comic or something. That's really the best way to describe it. So I thought that was a really cool look, and it was also a way to differentiate quite a bit from what Bruce Timm did with that series, so they weren't just copying. I had a great theme song by The Edge from U2, who wrote a theme song and everything. Anyway, I won't spend too much time on the series. I should really do a video review of that series in general, but it had this weird tonal shift halfway through where suddenly it wasn't very gothic anymore, and it wasn't really more about Batman being serious and the gothic detective. All of a sudden, Batgirl just kind of gets crammed into it, and it's just weird for a while. It's like all about Batgirl for like half a season. After that, it gets pretty good again, but not the same direction or tone that that it first started out in. So that's why it left, I think, a lot of people with a bad taste in their mouth. But this movie, Batman vs. Dracula, comes from that first era of the series. So you're still very much into those early years of Batman in Gotham, and in that same approach to the environment and the world and universe that he lives in. So that's carrying over perfectly. And it's so gothic. I've talked before in my video on the Batman problem how storytellers, at least filmmakers and people on TV and such, really don't even care about the detective aspect of Batman anymore. He's just all more, he has to be a paramilitary thug. He's a vigilante. He's the Punisher. That's all they really care about. He's not this detective and like he is in the comics. And that's just, tragic loss that storytellers don't understand that aspect of the character. But I qualify that in saying that he's supposed to be a gothic detective. And that's a very specific type of detective and genre as well. And this is what Duane Capizzi and Michael Goguen, again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name right. Michael Goggen's the director of this animated film. They really dwell and pull out this element really nicely in this film. Tim Burton did that as well. You know, that iconic scene in the beginning of the Tim Burton 89 Batman film when the thieves are on top of the rooftop and they're talking about the myth of the Batman and saying, we need to get out of here, you know, so-and-so, they found his body on the pavement and there was no blood in the body, you know, so Batman was like a vampire to them. And it was this gothic folklore. And then when Batman finally enters into that scene and he raises his cape in this very Dracula-like manner and stuff, and that's part of Batman. He takes on the appearance of a bat because villains are a cowardly and superstitious lot, and he's trying to appear, I mean, they don't really say it in the comic books, but he's trying to appear a nightly, ghastly monster to the criminals. He's trying to make them think he's a vampire or something like that, so that they will be scared of him. That's very much in the ingrained base DNA of the character. And so many, you know, you don't get even a touch of that in Ben Affleck's Batman, certainly not even in Christian Bale's Batman. Those storytellers, directors aren't interested in that. Make him the Punisher, make him this paramilitary vigilante. That's all they care about. Some sort of brooding ninja. But anyway, so the Tim Burton movie understood that quite well, and Duane Capizzi and even, you know, Bruce Timm's animated series understood that well in its own way. It did the film noir aspect of that, which was great. But the Batman series and the Batman versus Dracula film really goes back to the roots of that gothic sort of horror comic element. So Batman's suit, for example, looks very gothic. When he pulls on his gloves in the suit up scenes, his hand looks like a claw. And the bat cape is very sort of ragged tatters to the bat, you know, fins on the back on the bottom of the cape and stuff like that. So very, very, gothic style of the uniform as well. And in this movie, they call attention to that. So Dracula has come back to life. I won't give away spoilers or give away any of the things that you should know just as you go through the film. But Dracula finds himself coming back to life in Gotham City, and he hears about the Batman, and he's really intrigued because he realizes he sees his own influence in that. Somebody else is going around at night dressed like a bat. Clearly, that's a Dracula influence. He understands that, which it is. What your average Batman fan today would be like, what? You know, not even get that. So that was really cool to call attention to that. And throughout the film's quite long for an animated film for children. It's an hour and 20 minutes, which is certainly longer than any of the episodes of the Batman had to really flesh out a story, even the two-parters. So it's nice that they've got a little space there. If they had a little bit more time, they could have even fleshed it out more. But you have this conflict between Batman and Dracula, and how it does sort of force Bruce to face his own gothic side a little bit. I think that's nice. There's some amazing parts in it. The film even kind of pays homage to the Tim Burton 89 film. We have Vicky Vale, who's a major player in this movie, and she was in the Batman series occasionally, but hardly much at all. She wasn't really a big character in that. She's certainly the damsel in this film, which is great. She sort of fulfills the Lucy/Mina role of Dracula, as well as the Batman damsel to save, and she's a great character in here as well. But she was, of course, in the Batman 89 film, and she was just obsessed with Bruce Wayne to the point where she was doing some journalistic investigating of him and then learning about his parents and stuff like that. And she does that in this movie as well. So I think it's a little bit of a nod to that 89 film, which is nice. In the the conflict between Batman and Dracula, the two of them are such a cool matchup because Dracula is supernatural, whereas Batman, even though he wants to appear as gothic, he's all about science and all about scientific technology and solutions to things. So you do have science versus the supernatural a bit, and he tries to develop some scientific ways to fight Dracula, which is pretty cool. And then you have that battle of wills. So vampires, or Dracula especially, okay, Dracula is known for being able to hypnotize his victims. And so, but Bruce Wayne, Batman, is all about will and self-control and having the willpower and the determination to achieve his goals and become who he's become. So that's a great matchup just waiting to be made there. When I first saw this movie, I hadn't seen the cartoon or anything. I first saw this DVD in the stores years ago, and I thought, that's so stupid and random. Batman versus Dracula. What's next? Batman versus Godzilla. You know, I just thought it was one of those silly team ups that is just supposed to be really quickly laid out in a film for children or whatever. But I did not see this coming, and it was written by people and directed by people I think who really understood what this kind of conflict should be and how it's actually kind of already in the mythos and the DNA of it. So that was really great. The one thing I would have liked to have seen a little bit better. So sunlight will obviously kill a vampire, and the only other weapon that Batman will use against a vampire is garlic. And I thought that they could develop that, like a scientific explanation for that, but they don't. You kind of at one point in the film give a nod to the fact that like crucifixes might work, but they don't really go into that at all either. And I thought that was sort of a failed area that they could have explored. Maybe it's just the Catholic in me that wants to see that, but I think when you've got a great story where you've got the supernatural up against the science, if you're going to acknowledge the religious at all as being a valid tool to work on vampires, you don't just acknowledge it and then not do anything with it. There seems to be that's a key part of the conversation that could have been had. It doesn't ruin the film at all. It's just maybe if they had more time, they could have done that. So that would be my only real, I think, critique of it. But just some wonderful scenes. And once you understand how loaded this conflict is between Batman and Dracula, there's some climactic battles that you're just rooting for and jumping and cheering for. I know I was so excited. One of the specific battles with him and between Batman and all of the vampires that Dracula has created in Gotham, and then that final climactic battle between Dracula and Batman, the culminating moment of that. Just freaking rocks. I loved it. It was so great. So, the things they say, I don't want to give it away, but the things they say to each other really, that they're loaded comments they make, and that really brings home the character development for both of them and what this conflict has meant for Bruce Wayne. So I highly recommend this movie. Even if you've never seen the cartoon, you don't have to know anything about the Batman animated series to enjoy this cartoon. You just need to know basic Batman stuff, like Batman's a superhero, Joker and the Penguin are his, villains and such. That's all you really need to know. But even if you've seen the Batman series and you've never seen the movie like me, this is a complete whole new chapter that really is fun to watch. So I highly recommend this for any Batman or Dracula fan. It does a great job with the character of Dracula as well. Very, very faithful to his character from the Bram Stoker novel and in the mythos that we have of him. So I highly recommend it. I will, after the Halloween month is over and after my 31 days of Halloween review vlogs are over, I will go ahead and do a review of the Batman animated series, because I think there's a lot more there that's worthy of talking about. I think it's good to talk about all of the great stuff you can still find in that series, but, good to acknowledge all the issues that it had as well. So look for that eventually in the months to come. Until then, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the superhero and Halloween stories you love most. Thanks for watching.